do some light reading, and by light reading I mean I'm going to read the rest of Alice in Wonderland. I think there should be enough time to get through the rest of it. I only plan to stream for 2 hours because if I do ASMR any longer than 2 hours, I'm tired and I have a very long day tomorrow. I should actually check my work schedule because I have no idea when I'm even clocking in, frankly. Like I thought, it's early in the morning. That's good. that's good. That's really good. Okay. So yeah, I'm clocking in early, so I need to only stream for 2 hours so I can actually go to bed. I took a fat nap before this, and because I was exhausted today, and I don't think it did anything but make me more tired. So I don't think it did anything but make me way more tired. Is that a mommy voice I hear? Maybe so. I'm not anybody's mother though. Fair, who is first today? Who's first? Let's see. Arden, you are first. Thank you for being first. Get the first kiss of the day, possibly the only kiss of the day. We will see how it goes. Mwah. Thank you. Alright. I didn't feel like whispering today, so it's more of like a soft voice tonight. Sorry, I'm looking over. There's a hydrate for me. Thank you, Aftons. Hi, Memes. Hi, Billy. I'm doing a little better. I'm just very tired. Freaky cat. Technically, yeah, we did leave off on that freaky cat. Technically, the Cheshire Cat. We're about to go see the Mad Hatter in the March Hare. I can't even remember what. Let me read this again. I think okay, so she went to the March Hare, but it's not gonna matter because she's gonna end up at the tea party anyway. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter at all. Thank you for the red of my check. So thank you for the roses. Thank you. I will do my hydrate. I just got some water. Much. I'm feeling very hydrated. This is not mommy ASMR, so if you're looking for somebody to say insert tagline here, that's not that type of stream. I'm gonna read a book. I'm gonna read Alice in Wonderland. Got a throat tat. Is it acceptable for a male to have a throat tattoo? Sure. Sure. I mean, that's your business. It's between you and your tattoo artist, and then you and God or Satan, you know? Whatever you got going on, hey. We love it. As long as you're happy. Hi, Marcus. Hiyo. Hi, Marcus. Hiyo. Thank you for the head pats, Billy. Thank you. Who said mommy ASMR? I don't know. I'm looking at the chat. I'm reading all the chats. It's a combined chat that I'm reading. Hi, Bob. It's a combined chat that I'm looking at. Y'all may not see the combined chat, but I will. But it's not for you. It's for me. Oh yeah, it's Pride Month. Yes. I did not forget. I was gonna put it in the title, but I'll put it in the title for Well, actually, I can't, because Friday's stream, we're gonna do, what stream are we gonna do? We're gonna do the early stream because of the Summer Game Fest. So, can't even talk about Pride until Saturday, but yeah, Saturday. Yeah, happy Pride. Happy Pride, happy Pride. I'll try to remember. I was gonna put in the title of Friday's stream. I was like, oh, I gotta put that in the title. Gotta remember. But I'm like, nah, I gotta put in Summer Game Fest stuff for Friday. Sneaks out of the basement. I don't know, put you in there. Yeah, where's my cake? Where's all my free shit? Because I am in fact queer. Where's all my shit? Where's all my stuff? I got a king tat, but then someone made a joke saying I'm the king of necks. No, you'd be the throat goat. You'd be the king of throats. If you got king tattooed on your neck, tattooed on your throat, you'd be the king of throats. Which, hey, we love a throat goat. We do. We do. It's a very inclusive community. Love that. I mean, I don't understand why you're looking to me for validation, Marcus. That's the thing. Like, if you like something, why are you asking me, a stranger, whether or not something is weird or not, you know? You just like what you like. Just like what you like. Don't like what you don't like. You know? Okay. We're on chapter 5, 6, 7. We're on chapter 6, 7. We're on chapter 7. And you know, I would have shown in the Discord thigh highs. It's against the rules. Yeah, there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. Because I don't want people being like, oh, pup, this is a space where, because I can't verify, you know, I try my best to keep kiddos away from me, you know, because my streams are 18 plus, my content is 18 plus, but it's like, I don't need to see your thighs, like, I don't need to see your thighs. I feel like it's like it's given leeway to like other stuff. That's why there's no vent channel in the Discord, because like, the minute there's a vent channel, people are gonna start trauma dumping, and I'm not trying to hear all that. Not for nothing, that's exactly why I put all of the mental health links in the About Me. That's why they're all there, because I am not your therapist. You know, I get you feel comfy, cozy over here, but this is not the time nor place. Is it ethical to date? I mean, if they all know, right? Like, that's polyamory. Also, hi, Joshi. But, like, that's polyamory. So if they all know and they all agree to it, then yeah, who cares? But if somebody doesn't know, you're just cheating, right? So, seems like a pretty straightforward answer there. Feels pretty straightforward. Last time we were reading Alice in Wonderland. It was really fun, actually. I really enjoyed it. I can't believe we read all 55 pages. So much. So much. I think we have enough time to read the rest of them. Excuse me. I think we have enough time to read the rest of them. Perhaps. And the last time it's Alice in Wonderland. I mean, I don't know. Do we need a recap? Alice goes to Wonderland. That's what happens. Alice, she chases the white rabbit. And Alice is a way fun. I will say though, like, Alice is a way better character in the book than Alice is in any adaptation that I've ever seen. I don't think a lot of like adaptations of Alice in Wonderland really capture like how funny Alice is actually. and her like childlike whimsy. I don't really think anybody kind of gets that, which is a little frustrating because like they make her kind of boring, not for nothing. Just didn't want to make you angry. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the consideration. You know, if you're ever curious about what's gonna make me angry, I prefer people ask me rather than ask for forgiveness, because I'm not very forgiving. I'm not a very forgiving streamer, so I prefer if you just ask me before you do the dumb thing. Alright. She chases the white rabbit. Falls down a giant hole. You know, she meets talking animals that have no help for her. She gets into a race and has to give up all of her sweet treats. She meets the white rabbit again and fucks up his house, which is insane. She almost drowns in her own tears. What else happens? Oh, she meets an abusive household and they beat a baby. They cut that part out of the Disney adaptation. They're abusing a baby. And then she steals the baby because she's like, the baby might die if I leave it here. The baby might die if I leave it here. So then the baby turns into a pig, and then she lets the pig go. Don't know what that's about. And then she meets the Cheshire Cat, who was in the abusive household, and then the cat left. And the cat gives like no directions. Oh yeah, also she talks to that caterpillar, but like the caterpillar was smoking hookah and there's nothing. I mean, he did give actual advice to help her, but like it wasn't very much that you need to catch up on. The caterpillar is smoking some hookah and had a great time. And that's where we're at. And that's where we're at. You know what this is. It's Alice in Wonderland. Wonderful, whimsical things are happening. I don't know who that is, and I'm not saying happy birthday, so I don't know who that is. So I'm gonna start, because I don't want to waste any time, and I'm already a little bit late to stream anyway, because it was hard for me to get out of bed. Alright, as per usual, I'm just gonna kind of read, and then when I feel like stopping, I'll stop. If I feel like doing anything else, I'll do anything else. But I'm just gonna kind of go for it, you know. And if you're looking for somebody that's not really gonna commentate on the book as I read it, this isn't the stream for you. Okay? Damn, I have no idea where my lip balm is, and that I really gotta replace it. That's pissing me off. Okay. I'll survive. I keep forgetting to replace my lip balm, and I always want it for an ASMR stream. Annoying. Okay. Chapter 7. A Mad Tea Party. There was a table set out under a tree in front of the house, and the March Hare and the Hatter were having tea at it. A dormouse was sitting between them, fast asleep, and the other two were using it as a cushion, resting their elbows on it and talking over its head. Very uncomfortable for the dormouse, thought Alice. Only as it's asleep, I suppose it doesn't mind. The table was a large one, but the three were all crowded together at one corner of it. No room, no room, they cried out when they saw Alice coming. There's plenty of room, said Alice indignantly, and she sat down. I turned the page. She sat down in a large armchair at one end of the table. Have some wine, the March Hare said in an encouraging tone. Alice looked all around the table, but there wasn't anything on it but tea. I don't see any wine, she remarked. There isn't any, said the March Hare. Then it wasn't very civil of you to offer it, said Alice angrily. It wasn't very civil of you to sit down without being invited, said the March Hare. I didn't know it was your table, said Alice. It's laid for a great many more than 3. Thank you, Lone Wolf. Thanks much. Your hair wants cutting, said the Hatter. He had been looking at Alice for some time with great curiosity, and this was his first speech. You should learn not to make personal remarks, Alice said with some severity. It's very rude. The Hatter opened his eyes very wide upon hearing this, but all he said was, Why is a raven like a writing desk? Come, we shall have some fun now, thought Alice. I'm glad they've begun asking riddles. I believe I can guess that, she said aloud. Do you mean you can... Sorry, I'm like losing sight right now. I had to fix how I'm sitting. Alright. I'm ready. I have this like giant light in my eye, and it's like, it's distracting me. This light, I always forget I have to put it on for VTubing, and I'm like, it blinds me every single time. Thank you. Do you mean that you can find out the answer to it, said the March Hare. Exactly so, said Alice. Then you should say what you mean, the March Hare went on. I do, Alice hastily replied. At least I mean what I say. That's the same thing, you know. Not the same thing a bit, said the Hatter. Why, you might as well just say, I see what I eat. Is the same thing as I eat what I see? You might as well just say, added the March Hare, that I like what I get is the same thing as I get what I like. You might as well just say, added the Dormouse, who seemed to be talking in his sleep, that I breathe when I sleep is the same as I sleep when I breathe. It is the same thing with you, said the Hatter, and here the conversation dropped, and the party sat silent for a minute, while Alice thought over all she could remember about ravens and writing desks, which wasn't much. The Hatter was the first to break the silence. Oh, I don't know. I think it depends. I don't necessarily think of Johnny Depp right off the bat. I guess it depends on the adaptation, really. He's not like my first thought. I do think of his giant hat, though. What day of the month is it? He said, turning to Alice. He had taken his watch out of his pocket and was looking at it uneasily, shaking it every now and then and holding it to his ear. Alice considered a little and said, The 4th. 2 days wrong, sighed the Hatter. I told you butter wouldn't suit the works. He added, looking angrily at the March Hare. It was the best butter, the March Hare meekly replied. Yes, but some crumbs must have got in it as well, the Hatter grumbled. You shouldn't have put it in with the bread knife. The March Hare took the watch and looked at it gloomily, and then he dipped it into his cup of tea and looked at it again, but he could think of nothing better to say than his first remark. It was the best butter, you know. Alice had been looking over her shoulder with some curiosity. What a funny watch, she remarked. It tells the day of the month, and it doesn't tell what o'clock it is. O'clock. Why should it? Muttered the Hatter. Does your watch tell you what year it is? Of course not, Alice replied very readily, but that's because it stays the same year for such a long time together. Which is just the case with mine, said the Hatter. Alice felt dreadfully puzzled. Thank you for the follow. Thanks much. The Hatter's remark seemed to her to have no sort of meaning to it, and yet It was certainly English. I don't quite understand you, she said as politely as she could. Thank you for the bits. Thank you. Very much appreciated. Mwah. Wow, okay. The Dormouse is asleep again, said the Hatter, and he poured a little hot tea onto its nose. The Dormouse shook his head impatiently and said without opening its eyes, Of course, of course. Just what was I going to remark myself? Have you guessed the riddle yet? The Hatter said, turning to Alice again. No, I give it up, Alice replied. What's the answer? I haven't the slightest idea, said the Hatter. Nor I, said the March Hare. Alice sighed wearily. I think you might do something better with the time, she said, than waste it in asking riddles that have no answers. If you knew time as well as I do, said the Hatter, you wouldn't talk about wasting it. It's him. I don't know what you mean, said Alice. Of course you don't, the Hatter said, tossing his head contemptuously. I dare say you've never even spoken to time. Perhaps not, Alice cautiously replied. But I know I have to beat time when I learn music. Ah, that accounts for it, said the Hatter. He won't stand beating. Now, if you only kept on good terms with him, he'd do almost anything you liked with the clock. For instance, suppose it were 9 o'clock in the morning, just time to begin lessons. You'd only have to whisper a hint to time, and round goes the clock, a-twinkling. 1:30, time for dinner. I only wish it was, the March Hare said to itself in a whisper. Thank you for the bits, Shy. Thank you, thank you. That would be grand, certainly, said Alice thoughtfully. But then, I shouldn't be hungry for it, you know. Not at first, perhaps, said the Hatter. But you could keep it to 1:30 as long as you liked. Is that the way you manage? Alice asked. The Hatter shook his head mournfully. Not I, he replied. We quarreled last March, just before he went mad, you know, pointing with his teaspoon at the March Hare. It was at the great concert given by the Queen of Hearts, and I had to sing. Twinkle, twinkle, little bat, how I wonder what you're at. You know the song, perhaps. I've heard something like it, said Alice. It goes on, you know, the Hatter continued, in this way. Up above the world you fly, like a tea tray in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle. Here the Dormouse shook itself and began singing in its sleep. Twinkle, 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 twinkle. It went on so long that they had to pinch it to make it stop. Why are they doing animal abuse? Well, it hardly finished the first verse, said the Hatter, when the Queen bawled out, He's murdering the time! Off with his head! How dreadfully savage! Exclaimed Alice. And ever since that, the Hatter went on in a mournful tone, he won't do a thing I ask. It's always 6 o'clock now. A bright idea came into Alice's head. Is that the reason so many tea things are put out here? She asked. Yes, that's it, said the Hatter with a sigh. It's always tea time, and we've no time to wash things between the whiles. Then you keep moving round, I suppose, said Alice. Exactly so, said the Hatter, as the things get used up. But when you come to the beginning again, I feel like there's a missing word there. Ye Olde English is clapping me, I can't lie. I feel like I have to read the sentences twice because I'm like, what are they saying? Alice ventured to ask. Oh, my foot is falling asleep. Let me fix how I'm sitting. I'm about to give myself pins and needles. Suppose we change the subject. The March Hare interrupted, yawning. I'm getting tired of this. I vote the young lady tells us a story. I'm afraid I don't know one, said Alice, rather alarmed at the proposal. Then the Dormouse shall, they both cried. Wake up, Dormouse. And they pinched it on both sides at once. Abuse. Poor mouse. The Dormouse slowly opened its eyes. I wasn't asleep, he said in a hoarse, feeble voice. I heard every word you fellows were saying. Tell us a story, said the March Hare. Yes, please do, pleaded Alice. And be quick about it, added the Hatter, or you'll be asleep again before it's done. Once upon a time, there were 3 little sisters, the Dormouse began in a great hurry, and their names were Elise, Lacey, and Tilly, and they lived at the bottom of a well. What did they live on? Said Alice, who always took great interest in questions of eating and drinking greedy. Thirsty ass. Oh my god, Alice, just listen to the story. They lived on a treacle, said the Dormouse, after thinking a minute or two. They couldn't have done that, you know, Alice gently remarked. They'd have been ill. So they were, said the Dormouse. Very ill. Alice tried a little to fancy to herself what such an extraordinary way of living would be like, but it puzzled her too much, so she went on. But why did they live at the bottom of a well? Take some more tea, the March Hare said to Alice very earnestly. I've had nothing yet, Alice replied in an offended tone, so I can't take more. You mean you can't take less, said the Hatter. It's very easy to take more than nothing. Nobody asked your opinion, said Alice. Who's making personal remarks now? The Hatter asked triumphantly. Hi, Bader. Hiya. Alice did not quite know what to say to this, so she helped herself to some tea and bread and butter, and then turned to the Dormouse and repeated her question. Why did they live at the bottom of a well? The Dormouse, again, took a minute or two to think about it, and then said, It was a treacle well. There's no such thing. Alice was beginning very angrily, but the Hatter and the March Hare went, Shh, shh. And the Dormouse sulkily remarked, If you can't be civil, you'd better finish the story for yourself. No, please go on, Alice said, very humbly. I won't interrupt again. I dare say there may be one. One indeed, said the Dormouse, indignantly. However, he consented to go on. And so, these 3 little sisters, they were learning to draw, you know. What did they draw? Said Alice, quite forgetting her promise. Treacle, said the Dormouse, without considering it all this time. I want a clean cup, interrupted the Hatter. Let's all move one place on. He moved on as he spoke, and the Dormouse followed him. The March Hare moved into the Dormouse's place, and Alice, rather unwillingly, took the place of the March Hare. The Hatter was the only one who got any advantage from the change, and Alice was a good deal worse off than before, as the March Hare had just upset the milk jug into his plate. Alice did not wish to offend the Dormouse again, so she began very cautiously. But I don't understand. Where do they draw the treacle from? You can draw water out of a water well, said the Hatter. So I should think you could draw treacle out of a treacle well. Eh, stupid? Now I'm calling her stupid. But they were in the well, Alice said to the Dormouse, not choosing to notice this last remark. Of course they were, said the Dormouse. Well in. This answer so confused poor Alice that she let the Dormouse go on for some time without interrupting it. I do. You just have to redeem for it, or pay. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep reading. They were learning to draw, the Dormouse went on, yawning and rubbing its eyes, for it was getting very sleepy. And they drew all manner of things, everything that begins with an M. Why an M? Said Alice. Why not? Said the March Hare. Alice was silent. The Dormouse had closed its eyes by this time and was going off into a doze, but on being pinched by the Hatter, it woke up again with a little shriek. And went on. That begins with an M, such as mousetraps, and the moon, and memory, and muchness. You know, you say things are much of a muchness. Did you ever see such a thing as a drawing of a muchness? Pausing for the trigger request. That one's hard for me to do because I have to get my mouth like really wet. I gotta get my mouth like really, really wet. It's because I cupped it, so it probably sounded louder. It just helps when I cup sounds sometimes. Usually I'll cup mouth sounds, because they end up sounding louder. Otherwise they get dispersed into the air. Oh my, will go up into the air. Really? Now you ask me, said Alice, very much confused. I don't think then you shouldn't talk, said the Hatter. And this piece of rudeness was more than Alice could bear. She got up in great disgust and walked off. The Dormouse fell asleep instantly, and neither of the others took the least notice of her going, though she looked back once or twice, half hoping that they would call after her. The last time she saw them, they were trying to put the Dormouse into a teapot. At any rate, I'll never go there again, said Alice, and she picked her way through the wood. It's the stupidest tea party I was ever at in all my life. Just as she said this, she noticed that one of the trees had a door leading right into it. That was very curious, she thought, but everything's curious today. I think I may well go in it at once, and in she went. Once more she found herself in a long hall, and close to the little glass table. Now, I'll manage better this time, she said to herself, and began by taking the little golden key and unlocking the door that led into the garden. Then she went to work nibbling at the mushroom. She had kept a piece of it in her pocket, till she was about a foot high. Then she walked down the little passage, and then she found herself at last in the beautiful garden among the bright flower beds and the cool fountains. Chapter 8. The Queen's Croquet Ground. I have nothing to say about that last chapter. The only thing I can say is I don't remember the Dormouse being included in the Disney adaptation, and I wonder why. Probably because they were abusing it, right? If I had to guess, it's probably because they were pinching the mouse, and Disney was like, well, I don't know if we should put that in there. I don't know if we should put, like, animal abuse in our adaptation, similar to why they cut out, them abusing the baby in that last chapter. It makes sense. Would have been cute, though. The mouse sounds adorable. Alright, chapter 8. A large rose tree stood near the entrance of the garden. The roses growing on it were white, but there were 3 gardeners at it busily painting them red. Alice thought this was a very curious thing, and she went nearer to watch them, and just as she came up to them, she heard one of them say, "Look out now, 5. Don't go splashing paint over me like that." Thank you for the follow. I know, but I know, that is weird though. I was thinking about that. I don't remember if I mentioned it last stream, but I was like, the hookah bug got to stay. Like, the hookah bug got to stay, but the animal abuse was off the table. I'm not saying that that's bad, but I'm like, why did they put the hookah bug in there? I mean, they could have cut that too, technically. Maybe it was too iconic. I don't know. I don't know how people felt about Alice in Wonderland back when this book came out. I don't know. I couldn't help it, said 5 in a sulky tone. 7 jogged my elbow, on which 7 looked up and said, "That's right, 5. Always lay blame on others." "You'd better not talk," said 5. "I heard the Queen say only yesterday you deserve to be beheaded." "What for?" said the one who had spoken first. "That's none of your business, too," said 7. "Yes, it is his business," said 5, "and I'll tell him. It was for bringing up the cook." The cook is bringing the cook tulip roots instead of the onions. 7 flung down his brush and had just begun. Well, of all the unjust things, when his eye chanced to fall upon Alice as she stood watching them, and he checked himself suddenly. The others looked around also, and all of them bowed low. Pause. Good boy. Good boy. a good boy you are. Good boy. You are such a good boy. Good boy. Good boy. You are such a good boy. Hi, Damien. It's the perfect time. I was just flipping my page. As a reminder, by the way, which it's written in the Redeems, this is not about you, Billy. This is just a statement. Like, as a reminder, the Redeems are about 30 seconds, so very quick, unless they are paid, in which case I stretch them out longer. That's why I'm doing them in the way that I am. Thank you, Billy. Unless I really like doing a redeem, in which case I'll give you like another 30 seconds. Would you tell me, please? Said Alice, a little timidly. Why are you painting those roses? 5 and 7 said nothing. Wait, 5, 7? 5, 7? Let me stop. 5 and 7 said nothing, but looked at 2. 2 began in a low voice. Why, the fact is, you see, miss, this here ought to have been a red rose tree, and we put in a white one by mistake, and if the queen was to find out, we should all have our heads cut off, you know? So you see, miss, we're doing our best before she comes to. At this moment, 5, who had been anxiously looking around the garden, called out, "The queen! The queen!" And the 3 gardeners instantly threw themselves flat upon their faces. There was a sound of many footsteps, and Alice looked round, eager to see the queen. First came 10 soldiers carrying clubs. These were all shaped like the 3 gardeners, oblong and flat, with their hands and feet at the corners. Next, the 10 courtiers, that's how I want to say that word. These were ornamented all over with diamonds and walked 2 and 2 as the soldiers did. After these came the royal children. There were 10 of them, and the 10 little dears came jumping merrily along hand in hand in couples. They were all ornamented with hearts. Next came the guests, mostly kings and queens, and among them Alice recognized the White Rabbit. It was talking in a hurried, nervous manner, smiling at everything that was said, and went by without noticing her. Then followed the Knave of Hearts, carrying the king's crown on a crimson velvet cushion. And last of all this grand procession came the King and Queen of Hearts. I don't know why I have to let you know, though, that that text is in the biggest font of all time, and I don't know why it is in that big font. The rest of the page looks normal, but the King and Queen of Hearts, they said bold, capitalized, big letters, for absolutely no reason. I get it, but I don't know why it's so big. I don't know why it's so big. It's the only text that's ever been like that. Alice was rather doubtful whether she ought to lie down on her face like the 3 gardeners, but she could not remember ever having heard of such a rule at processions, and besides, What would be the use of a procession, she thought, if people had to all lie down on their faces so they couldn't see it? So she stood where she was and waited. When the procession came opposite to Alice, they all stopped and looked at her, and the queen said severely, "Who is this?" She said it to the Knave of Hearts, who only bowed and smiled in reply. "Idiot," said the queen, tossing her head impatiently, and turning to Alice, she went on, "What's your name, child?" "My name is Alice, so please, your majesty," said Alice very politely, but she added to herself, "Why, they're only a pack of cards, after all. I needn't be afraid of them." "And who are these?" said the queen, pointing to the 3 gardeners who were lying round the rose tree, for you see, as they were lying on their faces, and the pattern on their backs was the same as the rest of the pack, she could not tell whether they were gardeners or soldiers, courtiers, or 3 of her own children. "How should I know?" said Alice, surprised at her own courage. "It's no business of mine." The queen turned crimson with fury, and after glaring at her for a moment like a wild beast, began screaming, "Off with her head! Off!" "Nonsense," said Alice, very loudly and decidedly, and the queen was silent. The king laid his hand upon her arm and timidly said, "Consider, my dear, she is only a child." The queen turned angrily away from him and said to the knave, "Turn them over." The knave did so very carefully with 1 foot. "Get up," said the queen in a shrill, loud voice, and the 3 gardeners instantly jumped up and began bowing to the king, the queen, the royal children, and everybody else. "Leave off with that," screamed the queen. "You make me giddy." And then, turning to the rose tree, she went on, "What have ye been doing here?" May it please your majesty," said 2 in a very humble tone, going down on 1 knee as he spoke. "We were trying—" "I see," said the queen, who had meanwhile been examining the roses. "Off with their heads!" And the procession moved on, 3 of the soldiers remaining behind to execute the unfortunate gardeners who ran to Alice for protection. Why are they running towards her? Thank you for the head pats, the hydrate, and the red mud check. I am in fact sitting up so straight. I will drink some water, although my ice has melted. Unfortunate, but true. Thanks much. Also, if you're watching over on the Purple app, the top of the hour ad break is about to happen in about 5 minutes, so if you're not subscribed, you're going to see 5 minutes of advertisements. So please turn down your headphones if you're listening at a high volume. I can't do anything about the ads. Stop asking me. All I can do is tell you when they're happening and reduce them to the top of the hour, okay? So if you get 9 Taco Bell ads at high volume telling you to get fucking Baja Blast, I can't do anything about that. All I can tell you is to turn down your headphones. "You shan't be beheaded," said Alice, and she put them into a large flower pot that stood near. The 3 soldiers wandered about for a minute or 2, looking for them, and then quietly marched off after the others. "Are their heads off?" shouted the queen. Their heads are gone, if it pleases your majesty, the soldiers shouted in reply. That's right, shouted the queen. Can you play croquet? The soldiers were silent and looked at Alice, as the question was evidently meant for her. Yes, shouted Alice. Come on, then, roared the queen, and Alice joined the procession, wondering very much what would happen next. It's a very fine day, said a timid voice at her side. She was walking by the white rabbit, who was peeping anxiously into her face. Very, said Alice. Where's the Duchess? Hush, hush, said the rabbit in a low, hurried tone. He looked anxiously over his shoulder as he spoke, and then raised himself upon tiptoe, put his mouth close to her ear, and whispered, She's under sentence of execution. What for? Said Alice. Did you say, what a pity? The rabbit asked. No, I didn't, said Alice. I don't think it's a pity at all. I said, what for? Hi, Karma. She boxed the queen's ears, the rabbit began. Alice gave a little scream of laughter. Oh, hush, the rabbit whispered in a frightened tone. The queen will hear you. You see, she came rather late, and the queen said, Get to your places, shouted the queen in a voice of thunder, and people began running about in all directions, tumbling up against each other. However, they got settled down in a minute or two, and the game began. Alice thought she had never seen such a curious croquet ground in her life. It was all ridges and furrows. The croquet balls were live hedgehogs, the mallets live flamingos, and the soldiers had to double themselves up and to stand on their hands and feet to make the arches. The chief difficulty Alice found at first was managing her flamingo. She succeeded in getting its body tucked away comfortably enough under her arm, with its legs hanging down, but generally, just as she had gotten its neck nicely straightened out and was going to give the hedgehog a blow with its head, it would twist itself round and look up into her face with such a puzzled expression that she could not help bursting out into laughter. And when she had gotten its head down and was going to begin again, it was very provoking to find that the hedgehog had unrolled itself and was in the act of crawling away. Besides all this, there was generally a ridge or furrow in the way whenever she wanted to send the hedgehog to, and as the doubled-up soldiers were always getting up and walking off to other parts of the ground, Alice soon came to the conclusion that it was a very difficult game indeed. The players all played at once without waiting for turns, quarreling all the while, and fighting for the hedgehogs, and in a very short time the queen was in a furious passion, and went stamping about and shouting, Off with his head! Off with her head! About once in a minute. Alice began to feel very uneasy. To be sure, she had not as yet had any dispute with the queen, but she knew that it might happen any minute. And then, she thought, what would become of me? They're dreadfully fond of beheading people here. The great wonder is that there's anyone left alive. Alice was looking about for some way of escape and wondering whether she could get away without being seen when she noticed a curious appearance in the air. It puzzled her very much at first, but after watching it a minute or two, she made it out to be a grin, and she said to herself, It's the Cheshire Cat. Now I shall have somebody to talk to. "How are you getting on?" said the cat, as soon as there was enough mouth for it to speak with. Alice waited till the eyes appeared, and then nodded. "It's no use speaking to it," she thought, "till its ears have come, or at least one of them." In another minute, the whole body had appeared. The whole head had appeared, and then Alice put down her flamingo and began an account of the game, feeling very glad she had someone to listen to her. The cat seemed to think that there was enough of it now in sight, and no more of it appeared. Thanks for the follow. Thank you, Prince. That was very nice of you to say. Thank you. It is a bedtime story, so get tucked in as we finish up Alice in Wonderland. It comes with a follow. Don't worry, I'm not playing favorites. I don't think they play at all fairly, Alice began in a rather complaining tone. And they all quarrel so dreadfully, one can't hear oneself speak. And they don't seem to have any rules in particular, at least. If there are, nobody attends to them. And you have no idea how confusing it is, all the things being alive. For instance, there's the arch I've got to go through, next walking about at the other end of the ground, and I should have croqueted the queen's hedgehog just now, only it ran away when it saw mine coming. How do you like the queen? Said the cat in a low voice. Not at all, said Alice. She's so extremely... Just then, she noticed that the queen was close behind her, listening, so she went on, likely to win, that it's hardly worthwhile finishing the game. The queen smiled and passed on. Who are you talking to? Said the king, coming up to Alice and looking at the cat's head with great curiosity. It's a friend of mine, a Cheshire cat, said Alice. Allow me to introduce it. I don't like the look of it at all, said the king. However, it may kiss my hand if it likes. Kind of a crazy thing to ask. Oh yeah, you can definitely, kiss me, but, I don't really like how you look. I'd rather not, the cat remarked. Don't be impertinent, said the king, and don't look at me like that. He got behind Alice as he spoke. A cat may look at a king, said Alice. I've read that in some book, but I don't remember where. Well, it must be removed, said the king very decidedly, and he called the queen, who was passing at the moment. My dear, I wish you would have this cat removed. The queen had only one way of settling all difficulties, great or small. Off with his head, she said without even looking around. I'll fetch the executioner myself, the king said eagerly, and he hurried off. Alice thought, sorry, my tummy was rumbling. I think I'm hungry. It was distracting. Alice thought she might as well go back and see how the game was going on, as she heard the queen's voice in the distance screaming with passion. She had already heard her sentence of 3 players to be executed for having missed their turns, and she did not like the look of things at all, as the game was in such confusion that she never knew whether it was her turn or not. So she went off in search of her hedgehog. The hedgehog was engaged in a fight with another hedgehog, which seemed to Alice an excellent opportunity for croqueting one of them with the other. The only difficulty was that her flamingo had gone across to the other side of the garden, where Alice could see it trying in a sort of helpless way to fly up into a tree. By the time she had caught the flamingo and brought it back, the fight was over, and both hedgehogs were out of sight. But it doesn't matter much, thought Alice, as all the arches are gone from this side of the ground. So she tucked it away under her arm, that it might not escape again, and went back to have a little more conversation with her friend. When she got back to the Cheshire Cat, she was surprised to find quite a large crowd collected around it. There was a dispute going on between the executioner, the king, and the queen, who were all talking at once, while all the rest were quite silent and looked very uncomfortable. The moment Alice appeared, she was appealed to by all three to settle the question, and they repeated their arguments to her, though, as they all spoke at once, she found it very hard to make out exactly what they were saying. Thanks, Voodoo. Hi, I'm actually not a lady. I don't really like that terminology since I'm non-binary, but thank you. The executioner's argument was that you couldn't cut off a head unless there was a body to cut it off from, that he had never had to do such a thing before, and he wasn't going to begin at his time of life. The king's argument was that anything that had a head could be beheaded, and that you weren't to talk such nonsense. The queen's argument was that if something wasn't done about this, in less than no time, she'd have everybody executed all the way around. It was this last remark that had made the whole party look so grave and anxious. Alice could think of nothing else to say, but it belongs to the Duchess. You'd better ask her about it. She's in prison, the queen said to the executioner. Fetch her here. And the executioner went off like an arrow. The cat's head began fading away the moment he was gone, and by the time he had come back with the Duchess, it had entirely disappeared. So the king, the executioner, ran wildly up and down looking for it, while the rest of the party went back to the game. Chapter 9. Chapter 9. The Mock Turtle Story. It keeps throwing me every single time because the chapter's in Roman numerals, so I'm like, what is 9 in Roman numerals? I think that's 9 though, because the last chapter was 8. I'm just gonna keep reading because my thoughts, maybe I'll have more after. My thoughts are a little jumbled. All I have to say is they keep putting poor Alice into this, into all this nonsense. It feels very much like not for nothing, but it feels very much like The Walking Dead. Which I know is like a weird comparison, but like stay with me. You know how in The Walking Dead, right? And for people that have played The Walking Dead, the video game, not the TV show, everybody's like, Clementine, this child, please tell us what to do. It feels very much like that, where it's like, why are you asking me? I am literally 3 apples tall. Like, why are you asking me anything? Clementine, could you handle finding all the food for us? And it's like, I am literally a child. Like, stop asking me stuff. This entire story feels like that, where it's like, aren't you like an adult? Like, why are you asking me things? The Mock Turtle Story. You can't think how glad I am to see you again, you dear old thing, said the Duchess, and she tucked her arm affectionately into Alice's, and they walked off together. Mind you, the Duchess is the woman that was abusing the baby. Mind you, the Duchess was the one that was in that abusive household, but okay. Alice was very glad to find her in such a pleasant temper, and thought to herself that perhaps it was only the pepper that had made her so savage when they had met in the kitchen. When I am a duchess, she said to herself, not in a very hopeful tone though, I won't have any pepper in my kitchen at all. Soup does very well without. Maybe it's always pepper that makes people hot-tempered. This is to ye old England for me. It's spicy. The pepper is spicy for people. It's a spice, guys. She went on. She went on, very much pleased at having found out a new kind of rule. And vinegar that makes them sour, and chamomile that makes them bitter, and barley sugar, and such things that only make children sweet-tempered. I only wish people knew that, and they wouldn't be so stingy about it, you know. She had quite forgotten the Duchess by this time, and was a little startled when she heard her voice close to her ear. You're thinking about something, my dear, and that makes you forget to talk. I can't tell you just now what the moral of that is, but I shall remember it in a bit. Perhaps it isn't. Perhaps it hasn't one, Alice ventured to remark. Child, said the Duchess, everything's got a moral, if only you can find it. And she squeezed herself up close to Alice's side as she spoke. Alice did not much like keeping so close to her. First, because the Duchess was very ugly. Right. And secondly, because she was exactly the right height to rest her chin upon Alice's shoulder, and it was an uncomfortably sharp chin. However, she did not like to be rude, so she bore it as well as she could. I will say, you can't see the book that I'm reading, but I can confirm, the Duchess is ugly. I can confirm. Her head is as big as Alice's whole torso. It is quite large, and very much in charge. The game's going on rather better now, she said, by the way of keeping up the conversation a little. 'Tis so, said the Duchess, and the moral of that is, oh, 'tis love. 'Tis love that makes the world go round. Somebody said, Alice whispered, that it's done by everybody minding their own business. Ah, well, it means much the same thing, said the Duchess, digging her sharp little chin into Alice's shoulder. As she added, and the moral of that is, take care of the sense, and the sounds will take care of themselves. How fond she is of finding morals in things, Alice thought to herself. I dare say you're wondering why I don't put an arm around your waist, said the Duchess after a pause. The reason is, I'm doubtful about the temper of your flamingo. Shall I try the experiment? He might bite, Alice cautiously replied, not feeling at all anxious to have the experiment tried. Very true, said the Duchess. Flamingos and mustard both bite. And the moral of that is, birds of a feather flock together. Only mustard isn't a bird, Alice remarked. Right as usual, said the Duchess. What a clear way you have of putting things. It's a mineral, I think. I don't know, something about the way it's like italicized cracks me up. I think, said Alice. Of course it is, said the Duchess, who seemed ready to agree to everything that Alice said. There's a large mustard mine near here, And the moral of that is, the more there is to mine, the less there is of yours. Oh, I know, exclaimed Alice, who had not attended to this last remark. It's, a vegetable. It doesn't look like one, but it is. I quite agree with you, said the Duchess, and the moral of that is, be what you would seem to be, or, if you'd like it, put more simply, never imagine yourself not to be otherwise than what you might appear to others, that what you were, or might have been, was not otherwise than what you had been would have appeared to them to be otherwise. I think I should understand that better, Alice said very politely, if I had written it down, but I can't quite follow it as you say it. That's nothing to what I could say if I chose, the Duchess replied in a pleased tone. Pray don't trouble yourself to say it any longer than that, said Alice. Oh, don't talk about trouble, said the Duchess. I make you a present of everything I've said as yet. A cheap sort of present, thought Alice. I'm glad they don't give birthday presents like that. She did not venture to say it out loud. Thinking again? The Duchess asked, with another dig of her sharp little chin. I've a right to think, said Alice sharply, for she was beginning to feel a little worried. Just about as much right, said the Duchess, as pigs have to fly, but here, to Alice's great surprise, the Duchess's voice died away, even in the middle of her favorite word, moral, and the arm that was linked to hers began to tremble. Alice looked up, and there stood the Queen in front of them, with her arms folded, frowning like a thunderstorm. A fine day, Your Majesty, the Duchess began in a low, weak voice. Now, I give you fair warning, shouted the Queen, stamping on the ground as she spoke. Either you or your head must be off, and that in about half no time. Take your choice. The Duchess took her choice and was gone in the moment. Let's go on with the game, the Queen said to Alice, and Alice was too much afraid to say a word, but slowly followed her back to the croquet ground. The other guests had taken advantage of the Queen's absence and were resting in the shade. However, the moment they saw her, they hurried back to the game, the Queen merely remarking that a moment's delay would cost them their lives. All the time they were playing, the Queen never left off quarreling with the other players and shouting, "Off with his head," or "Off with her head." Could have saved some letters there if we used "off with their head," perhaps. The simple they. Also, like, why would you want to live here? Like, if you lived in Wonderland, like, why would you want to live here? Like, she seems awful, just don't live here. There's a lot of places to live, don't live here. Hi, EXE. Hiyo. Those whom she sentenced were taken into custody by the soldiers, who, of course, had to leave off being archers to do this, so that by the end of the half an hour or so, there were no archers left. And all the players, except for the king, the queen, and Alice, were taken into custody and under sentence of execution. Then the queen left off, quite out of breath, and said to Alice, "Have you seen the mock turtle yet?" "No," said Alice. I don't even know what a mock turtle is." "It's the thing mock turtle soup is made from," said the queen. "I've never saw one, or heard of one," said Alice. Come on then, said the queen, and he shall tell you his history. Hi, Mr. Yaboy. Hi-oh. As they walked off together, Alice heard the king say in a low voice to the company generally, "You are all pardoned." Come, that's a good thing, she said to herself, for she had felt quite unhappy at the number of executions the queen had ordered. They very soon came They very soon came upon a griffin laying fast asleep in the sun. If you don't know what a griffin is, look at the picture. That's actual text in the book. If you don't know what a griffin is, just look at that picture. And a griffin is a mythical creature. It has a bunch of pieces of different creatures plopped together. "Up, lazy thing," said the queen, "and take this young lady to see the mock turtle and to hear his history. I must go back and see after some executions I have ordered." And she walked off, leaving Alice alone with the griffin. Alice did not quite like the look of the creature, but on the whole, she thought it would be quite safe to stay with it, as to go after that savage queen. So she waited. The griffin sat up and rubbed its eyes, and then it watched the queen till she was out of sight, and then chuckled. "What fun," said the griffin, half to itself and half to Alice. "What is the fun?" said Alice. "Why, she," said the griffin. "It's all her fancy, that. They never executes nobody, you know. Come on." Everybody says, "Come on," here, thought Alice as she went slowly after it. I was never so ordered about before in my life. Never. They had not gotten far before they saw the mock turtle in the distance, sitting sad and lonely on the little edge of rock, and as they came nearer, Alice could hear him singing, sighing, as if his heart would break. She pitied him deeply. "What is his sorrow?" she asked the griffin, and the griffin answered, very nearly in the same words as before. "It's all his fancy, that. He hasn't gotten no sorrow, you know. Come on." So they went up to the mock turtle, who looked at them with large eyes full of tears, but said nothing. "This here young lady," said the griffin, "she wants for to know your history, she do." "I'll tell it her," said the mock turtle in a deep, hollow tone. "Sit down, both of you, and don't speak a word till I've finished." So they sat down, and nobody spoke for some minutes. Alice thought to herself, "I don't see how he could ever finish if he doesn't begin." But she waited patiently. "Once," said the mock turtle at last, with a deep sigh, "I was a real turtle." These words were followed by a very long silence, broken only by the occasional exclamation of, "A jerk?" from the griffin, and the constant heavy sobbing of the mock turtle. Alice was nearly getting up and saying, "Well, thank you, sir, for your very interesting story," but she could not help thinking there must be more to come. So she sat still and said nothing. "When we were little," the mock turtle went on at last, more calmly, though still sobbing a little now and then, "we went to school in the sea. The master was an old turtle, but we used to call him Tortoise." "Why did you call him Tortoise if he wasn't one?" Alice asked. We called him Tortoise because he taught us. The Mock Turtle said the Mock Turtle angrily. Really, you are very dull. Alice being called stupid throughout this entire book will never stop making me laugh. I'm so sorry. Like, it cracks me up every single time somebody calls her stupid. You ought to be ashamed of yourself for asking such a simple question, added the Griffin. And they both sat silent and looked at poor Alice, who felt ready to sink into the earth. At last, the Griffin said to the Mock Turtle, "Drive on, old fellow. Don't be all day about it." And he went on in these words. "Yes, we went to school in the sea, though you mayn't believe it." "I never said I didn't," interrupted Alice. "You did," said the Mock Turtle. "Hold your tongue," added the Griffin, before Alex could speak again. The Mock Turtle went on. "We had the best of educations. In fact, we went to school every day." "I've been to day school too," said Alice. "You needn't be so proud as all that." "With extras?" asked the Mock Turtle, a little anxiously. "Yes," said Alice. "We learned French and music." "And washing?" said the Mock Turtle. "Certainly not," said Alice indignantly. "Ah, then yours wasn't a really good school," said the Mock Turtle, in a tone of great relief. Now, at ours, they had at the end of the bill French, music, and washing. Extra. "You couldn't have wanted it much," said Alice, living at the bottom of the sea. "I couldn't afford to learn it," said the Mock Turtle with a sigh. "I only took the regular course." "What was that?" inquired Alice. "Reeling and writing, of course." "Actually, it's reeling and writhing, of course." "To begin with," the Mock Turtle replied. "And then the different branches of arithmetic, ambition, distraction, uglification, and derision." "I've never heard of uglification," Alice ventured to say. What is it?" The Griffin lifted up both of its paws in surprise. "Never heard of uglifying?" it exclaimed. "You know what it is to beautify, I suppose." "Yes," said Alice doubtfully. "It means to make anything prettier." Thank you for the follow. "Well then," the Griffin went on, "if you don't know what to uglify is, you are a simpleton." Alice did not feel encouraged to ask any more questions about it, so she turned to the Mock Turtle and said, "What else had you to learn?" "Well, there was mystery," the Mock Turtle replied, counting off the subjects on its flappers. "Mystery, ancient and modern, with seography, and then drawing. The drawing master was an old conger eel that used to come once a week. He taught us drawing, stretching, and fainting in the coils." "And what was that like?" said Alice. "Well, I can't show it to you myself," the Mock Turtle said. "I'm too stiff, and the Griffin never learned it." "Hadn't the time," said the Griffin. "I went to the classical master, though. He was an old crab, he was." "I never went to him," the Mock Turtle said with a sigh. "He taught laughing and grief, they used to say." So he did, said the Griffin, sighing in his turn, and both creatures hid their faces in their paws. And how many hours a day did you do lessons? Said Alice in a hurry to change the subject. 10 hours the first day, said the Mock Turtle, 9 the next, and so on. What a curious plan, exclaimed Alice. That's the reason they're called lessons, the Gryphon remarked, because they lessen from day to day. This was quite a new idea to Alice, and she thought it over a little before she made her next remark. Then the 11th day must have been a holiday. Of course it was, said the Mock Turtle. And how did you manage on the 12th? Alice went on eagerly. That's enough about lessons, the Gryphon interrupted in a very decided tone. Tell her something about the games now. Chapter 10. The Lobster Quadrille. I have to fix how I'm sitting before we can talk about the lobster. I love sitting with my legs tucked underneath me, and then immediately my legs start falling asleep. The Mock Turtle sighed deeply and drew back one of the flappers across its eyes. He looked at Alice and tried to speak, but for a minute or two, sobs choked his voice. Same as if he had a bone in his throat, said the Gryphon, and set to work shaking him and punching him in the back. It's kind of a lot, relax. At last, the Mock Turtle recovered his voice, and with tears running down his cheeks, he went on again. I'll shake you. I really think, like, my imagination for this book is, like, the most hilarious thing, because, like, everything everybody's saying is just so funny to me. I'm like, what do you mean you shook him? And then you punched him in the back. What the hell? Stop crying. Just shaking him. Stop crying, stop crying. Thank you for the follow. I'll teach you to cry. You may not have lived much under the sea. I haven't, said Alice. And perhaps you were never even introduced to a lobster. Alice began to say, I once tasted, but checked herself hastily and said, no, never. So you have no idea what a delightful thing a lobster quadrille is. No, indeed, said Alice. What sort of dance is it? Why, said the Gryphon, you first form into a line along the seashore. 2 lines, cried the Mock Turtle. Seals, turtles, salmon, and so on. Then, when you've cleared all the jellyfish out of the way, that generally takes some time, interrupted the Gryphon. You advance twice, each with a lobster. As a partner, cried the Gryphon. Of course, the Mock Turtle said. Advance twice, set to partners, change lobsters, and retire in the same order, continued the Gryphon. Then, you know, the Mock Turtle went on, you throw the lobsters, shouted the Gryphon, with a bound into the air, as far out into the sea as you can. Swim after them, screamed the Gryphon. Turn a somersault in the sea, cried the Mock Turtle, capering wildly about. Change lobsters again, yelled the Gryphon at the top of its voice. Back to land again. And, that's the first figure, said the Mock Turtle, suddenly dropping its voice, and the 2 creatures who had been jumping about like mad things all this time sat down again very sadly and quietly and looked at Alice. It must have been a very pretty dance, said Alice timidly. Would you like to see a little of it? Said the Mock Turtle. Very much indeed, said Alice. Come, let's try the first figure, said the Mock Turtle to the Griffin. We can do it without lobsters, you know. Which shall sing? Oh, you sing, said the Griffin. I've forgotten the words. I need you all to know that the Mock Turtle looks like the ugliest pig you've ever seen in your entire life, but with a turtle body and pig hooves. That is what that creature looks like, and it is sobbing, which is making it look even uglier, just for your own reference, you know? So they began solemnly dancing round and round Alice, every now and then treading on her toes when they passed too close, and waving their forepaws to mark the time, while the Mock Turtle sang this very slowly and sadly. Will you walk a little faster? Oh, sorry, give me, I gotta lean in. I gotta lean in. This text is tiny, oh my god. I gotta lean in, okay. The text is like so small, like who is reading this? Tiniest text of all time. Will you walk a little faster, said a whiting to a snail. There's a porpoise close behind us, and he's treading on my tail. See how eagerly the lobsters and the turtles all advance. They are waiting on the shingle. Will you come and join the dance? Will you, won't you, will you, won't you, will you join the dance? Will you, won't you, will you, won't you join the dance? You can really have no notion how delightful it will be when they take us up and throw us with lobsters out to sea. But the snail replied, too far, and gave a look. Ask ants. Said he thanked the whiting kindly, but he would not join the dance. Would not, could not, would not, could not, would not join the dance. Would not, could not, would not, could not join the dance. What matters is how far we go, his scaly friend replied. There is another shore, you know, upon the other side. The further off from England, the nearer is to France. Then turn not pale, beloved snail, but come and join the dance. Will you, won't you, will you, won't you, will you join the dance? Will you, won't you, will you, won't you join the dance? Thank you. It's a very interesting dance to watch, said Alice, feeling very glad it was over at last. And I do like that curious song about the whiting. Oh, as to the whiting, said the Mock Turtle, you've seen them, of course. Yes, said Alice. I've often seen them at at dinner, I mean. She checked herself hastily. I don't know where din may be, said the Mock Turtle, but if you've seen them so often, of course you know what they're like. I believe so, Alice replied thoughtfully. They have their tails in their mouths, and they're all over crumbs. You're wrong about the crumbs, said the Mock Turtle. Crumbs would wash off in the sea, but they have their tails in their mouths, And the reason is, here the Mock Turtle yawned and shut his eyes. Tell her about the reason and all that, he said to the Griffin. The reason is, said the Griffin, that they would go with the lobsters to the dance. So they got thrown out to sea. So they had to fall a long way. So they got their tails fast in their mouths, so they couldn't get them out again. That's all. Thank you, said Alice. It's, very interesting. I never knew so much about a whiting before. I can tell you more than that if you'd like, said the Griffin. Do you know why it's called a whiting? I never thought about it, said Alice. Why? It does the boots and shoes, said the Griffin. Very solemnly. Alice was thoroughly puzzled. Does the boots and shoes? She repeated in a wondering tone. Why, what are your shoes done with? Said the Griffin. I mean, what makes them so shiny? Alice looked down at them and considered a little before she gave her answer. They're done with blacking, I believe. Now, what is that? Now, what is that exactly? Boots and shoes under the sea, the Griffin went on in a deep voice, are done with whiting. Now you know. And what are they made of? Alice asked in a great curiosity. Hi, Millie. Hi-yo. Soles and eels, of course, the Griffin replied rather impatiently. Any shrimp could have told you that. If I'd been the whiting, said Alice, whose thoughts were still running on the song, I'd have said to the porpoise, keep back, please. We don't want you with us. They were obligated to have him with them, the Mock Turtle said. No wise fish would go anywhere without a purpose. A porpoise. Wouldn't it really? I can already tell, like, you know when they set up, it's like, in this book, the minute they bring out, like, a character name, I can, like, already tell what the joke is gonna be. I'm like, oh, porpoise, purpose, I see you, Lewis Carroll, I see you. I see you already, I see you. Wouldn't it really? Said Alice in a tone of great surprise. Of course not, said the Mock Turtle. Why, if a fish came to me and told me he was going on a journey, I should say, with what purpose? Don't you mean purpose? Literally. Didn't I just say? Said Alice. I mean what I say, the Mock Turtle replied in an offended tone. And the Griffin added, come, let's hear of some of your adventures. I could tell you my adventures beginning from this morning, said Alice a little timidly, but it's no use going back to yesterday because I was a different person then. Explain all that, said the Mock Turtle. No, the adventures first, said the Griffin in an impatient tone. Explanations take such a dreadful time. So Alice began telling them of her adventures from the time when she first saw the White Rabbit. She was a little nervous about it, just at first. The two creatures got so close to her, one on each side, and opened their eyes and mouths so very wide. But she gained courage as she went on. Her listeners were perfectly quiet till she got to the part about her repeating, "You were old, Father William," to the caterpillar, and all the words coming out different. And then the Mock Turtle drew a long breath and said, "That's very curious." "It's all about as curious as it can be," said the Griffin. "It all came different," the Mock Turtle repeated thoughtfully. I should like to hear her try and repeat something now. Tell her to begin. He looked at the Griffin as if he thought he had some kind of authority over Alice. Stand up and repeat, "'Tis the voice of Sluggard," said the Griffin. How the creature's order went about, and make one repeat lessons, thought Alice. I might as well just be at school at once. However, she got up and began to repeat it, but her head was so full of lobster quadrille that she hardly knew what she was saying, and the words came very queer indeed. Happy Pride Month. "'Tis the voice of the lobster," I heard him declare. "You have baked me too brown, I must sugar my hair. As a duck with its eyelids, so he with its nose trims his belt and his buttons and turns out his toes." "That's different from what I used to say when I was a child," said the Griffin. "Well, I never heard it before," said the Mock Turtle, "but it sounds uncommon nonsense." Alice said nothing. She had sat down again with her face in her hands and wondered if anything would ever happen in a natural way again. "I should like to have it explained," said the Mock Turtle. "She can't explain it," said the Griffin. "Go on with the next verse." "But what about his toes?" said the Mock Turtle. "How could he have turned them out with his nose, you know? It's the first position in dancing," Alice said, but she was dreadfully puzzled by the whole thing and longed to change the subject. "Go on with the next verse," the Griffin repeated impatiently. "It begins, 'I passed by his garden.'" Alice did not dare to disobey, though she sure felt it would come out all wrong, and she went on in a trembling voice. "I passed by his garden and marked with one eye how the owl and the oyster was sharing a pie." "What is the use of repeating all that stuff?" the Mock Turtle interrupted. "If you don't explain it as you go on, it's by far the most confusing thing I ever heard." "Yes, I think you better leave off," said the Griffin, and Alice was only too glad to do so. Mind you, Alice is she's only here because the Queen dropped her off here even though they were playing a game of croquet. So is the Queen coming back to her? How does Alice get out of this situation? Can she just leave? I just walk away at this point, to be honest. It wasn't that far that they walked, really and truly. Why is she here for real? "Shall we try another figure of the lobster quadrille?" the Griffin went on. "Or would you like the Mock Turtle to sing you a song?" "Yeah, Alice is not Gojo, sorry to say. She is blue-eyed, but she's not Gojo." "Oh, a song, please, if the Mock Turtle would be so kind," Alice replied so eagerly that the Griffin said, in a rather offended tone, "No accounting for tastes. Sing her turtle soup, will you, old fellow? Total." Sorry, all my words are slurring together. I'm ready for bed, I can't lie. The Mock Turtle sighed deeply and began in a voice sometimes choked with sobs to sing this. I'm starting to understand that Lewis Carroll, he loves a good little poem. This man loves a good little poem. He loves a little poem. He loves a little jingle. Beautiful soup, so rich and green, waiting in a hot tureen. For who for such dainties would not stoop. Soup of the evening, beautiful soup. Soup of the evening, beautiful soup. Beautiful soup, beautiful soup. Soup of the evening, beautiful soup. Listen, now put a trap beat behind that. I think we got something going on. Beautiful soup, who cares for fish, game, or any other dish? Who would not give all else for 2 pennyworth only of beautiful soup? Pennyworth only of beautiful soup. Beautiful soup, beautiful soup. Soup of the evening, beautiful soup. Chorus again, cried the Griffin, and the Mock Turtle had just begun to repeat it. He said, right, rewind that back. It's a banger, rewind that one. I still think the best poem in this entire thing was the one about the dad. That one, that was a banger. That would have made a really cute little jingle. That was a banger. When the cry of the trial's beginning was heard in the distance, "Come on," cried the Griffin, and taking Alice by the hand, hurried off without waiting for the end of the song. What trial is it?" Alice panted as she ran, but the Griffin only answered, "Come on," and ran faster, while more and more faintly carried on the breeze that followed them, the melancholy words, "Soup of the evening, beautiful, beautiful soup." What are we on, chapter 11? I can't remember. Chapter 11. Who stole the tarts? I could see, before we move on to chapter 11, I could understand why they cut that part. Because Alice was just taken on another adventure for no reason. Like, I understand why they would cut that. Nah, you could cut that chapter. It's not a chapter you gotta stay for, you know? I mean, there wasn't even any hookah in that one. It was barely very exciting. The King and Queen of Hearts were seated on their throne when they arrived, with a great crowd assembled about them. All sorts of little birds and beasts, as well as the whole pack of cards. The knave was standing before them in chains, with a soldier on each side to guard him, and near the king was the White Rabbit, with a trumpet in one hand and a scroll of parchment in the other. Are they gonna explain ever, why the White Rabbit is there? He doesn't even live here. Also, the top of the hour ad break is about to happen in about 5 minutes, so if you're not subscribed, you're gonna get 5 minutes of advertisements. So, or whatever, how many minutes of advertisements Twitch wants to show you. So lower your volume in about 4 minutes. He actually doesn't live here, so why is he over here? I guess this could be his job, but this is kind of far from his house. It's a big commute. Why does he work here? It was the White Rabbit with a trumpet in one hand and a scroll of parchment in the other. In the very middle of the court was a table with a large dish of tarts upon it. They looked so good that it made Alice quite hungry to look at them. I actually hate tarts. That is my hot take. I dislike tarts. Any type of tart. I don't like it. I wish they'd get the trial done, she thought, and hand round the refreshments. But there seemed to be no chance of this, so she began looking at everything about her to pass away the time. Alice had never been in a court of justice before, but she had read about them in books, and she was quite pleased to find that she knew the name of nearly everything there. "That's the judge," she said to herself, because of his great wig. The judge, by the way, was the king, and he wore his crown over the wig. says in the book, look at the frontispiece if you want to see how he did it. What does that mean? What does this mean? What is he talking about? Now I gotta Google things. What the hell is he talking about? What the hell is that? What the hell is a frontispiece? I mean, I'm assuming it's just a powdered way. I mean, I guess that means the front page. This was on the front page. I don't know. Whatever. I just like the little, like, in parentheses, like, author's notes. It feels like I'm reading, like, AO3. It's like, author's note. Look at the image that was at the cover of the book, in case you want to see. He did not look at all comfortable, and it was certainly not becoming. And that's the jury box, thought Alice. And those are 12 creatures. She was obliged to say creatures, you see, because some of them were animals and some were birds. I suppose they are the jurors. She said this last word or two 3 times over to herself, being rather proud of it, for she thought, and rightly too, that very few little girls of her age knew the meaning of it at all. However, jurymen would have done just as well. Whoa. Wow, why do they have to be men? Oh my god. They can just be jurors, okay? The 12 jurors were all writing very busily on slates. What are they doing? Alice whispered to the Griffin. They can't have anything to put down yet before the trial's begun. They're putting down their names, the Griffin whispered in reply, for fear that they should forget them before the trial ends. Stupid things, Alice began in a loud, indignant voice, but she stopped herself hastily, for the White Rabbit cried out, "Silence in the court!" And the king put on his spectacles and looked around anxiously to make out who was talking. Alice could see, as well as if she were looking over their shoulders, that all the jurors were writing down stupid things on their slates, and she could even make out that one of them didn't know how to spell stupid, and that he had to ask his neighbor to tell him. A nice muddle of their slates they'll be before the trial's over, thought Alice. One of the jurors had a pencil that squeaked. This, of course, Alice could not stand, and she went round the court and got behind him, and very soon found an opportunity of taking it away. She did it so quickly that the poor little juror, it was Bill the Lizard. Oh my god, Bill from before. Oh, I see. Okay, so Bill got jury duty. I see. That sucks for Bill after he was thrown out of a chimney last time. And then he gets jury duty right after that. Unfortunate. Could not make out at all what had become of it. So after hunting all about for it, he was obliged to write with one finger for the rest of the day. And this was of very little use, as it left no mark on the slate. "Herald, read the accusation," read the king. On this, the White Rabbit blew 3 blasts on the trumpet, and then unrolled the parchment scroll and read as follows. "The Queen of Hearts, she made some tarts all on summer day. The Knave of Hearts, he stole these tarts and took them quite away. Consider your verdict," the king said to the jury. Not yet, the rabbit said hastily, interrupted. "There's a great deal to come before that." "Call the first witness," said the king, and the rabbit blew 3 blasts on the trumpet and called out, "First witness." The first witness was the Hatter. He came with a teacup in one hand and a big piece of bread and butter in the other. Sounds kind of good right now, I can't even lie. "I beg pardon, your majesty," he began, "for bringing these in, but I hadn't quite finished my tea when I was sent for. You ought to have finished, said the king. When did you begin? The hatter looked at the March Hare, who had followed him into court, arm in arm with the Dormouse. 14th of March, I think it was, he said. 15th, said the March Hare. 16th, said the Dormouse. Write that down, said the king to the jury, and the jury eagerly wrote all 3 dates on their slates and added them up, and reduced the answers to shillings and pence. Take off your hat, the king said to the hatter. It isn't mine, said the hatter. Stolen, the king exclaimed, turning to the jury, who instantly made a memorandum of the fact. I keep them to sell, the hatter added as an explanation. I have none of my own. I'm a hatter. Here, the queen put on her spectacles and began staring at the hatter, who turned pale and fidgeted. Give your evidence, said the king, and don't be nervous, or I'll have you executed on the spot. Oh, great, thank you. This did not seem to encourage the witness at all. He kept shifting from one foot to the other, looking uneasily at the queen, and in confusion. He bit a large piece out of his teacup instead of the bread and butter. Just at this moment, Alice felt a very curious sensation, which puzzled her a good deal until she made out what it was. She was beginning to grow larger again, and she thought at first she would get up and leave the court, but on second thoughts, she decided to remain where she was as long as there was room for her. I wish you wouldn't squeeze so, said the Dormouse, who was sitting next to her. I can hardly breathe. I can't help it, said Alice very meekly. I'm growing. You have no right to grow here, said the Dormouse. Don't talk nonsense, said Alice more boldly. You know you're growing too. Yes, but I grow at a reasonable pace, said the Dormouse. Not in that ridiculous fashion. And he got up very sulkily and crossed over to the other side of the court. All this time, the queen had never left off staring at the hatter, and just as the Dormouse crossed the court, she said to one of the officers of the court, Bring me the list of the singers at the last concert, on which the wretched hatter trembled so that he shook both his shoes off. Give your evidence, the king repeated angrily, or I'll have you executed, whether you're nervous or not. I'm a poor man, your majesty, the hatter began in a trembling voice, and I hadn't but just begun my tea, not above a week or so. And what with the bread and butter getting so thin, and the twinkling of the tea. The twinkling of what? Said the king. It began with the tea, said the hatter. Of course, twinkling begins with a tea, said the king sharply. Do you take me for a dunce? Go on. I'm a poor man. It's not even funny, I don't know why I'm laughing. I'm a poor man, said the hatter. And most things twinkled after that. Only the March Hare said, I didn't. The March Hare interrupted in a great hurry. You did, said the hatter. I deny it, said the March Hare. He denies it, said the king. Leave out that part. Well, at any rate, the Dormouse said, the hatter went on, looking anxiously around to see if he would deny it too. But the Dormouse denied nothing, being fast asleep. After that, I got some more bread and butter. What did the Dormouse say? One of the jury asked. That I can't remember, said the hatter. You must remember, remarked the king, or I'll have you executed. Everything is execution. I have to cough, so I'm not going to cough into the mic. Just give me a second. I think my asthma is acting up. I've been choked up all day. The miserable hatter dropped his teacup and bread and butter and went down on one knee I'm a poor man, your majesty, he began. You're a very poor speaker, said the king. Here, one of the guinea pigs cheered, and was immediately suppressed by the officers of the court. As that is rather a hard word, I'll explain to you how it was done. They had a large canvas bag, which, tied up at the mouth with strings, into this they slipped the guinea pig head first and then sat upon it. Oh, so they killed him. Oh, okay, so they killed him. That's good to hear. They put a bag over his head, and then they killed him. Oh, okay. And they sat on him. Oh, that's good. Thank you for explaining that to me. I'm glad I've seen that done, thought Alice. Alice was like, oh my god, yay, murder. I read so often in the papers at the end of trials, there was some attempt at applause, which was immediately suppressed by the officers of the court. I never understood what that meant till now. They kill you. If you've never been to jury duty, they do that. They put bags over your head and then they'll sit on you. It's true. Thank you for the follow. If that's all you know about it, you may stand down, continued the king. I can't go no lower, said the Hatter. I'm on the floor as it is. Then you may sit down, the king replied. Here another guinea pig cheered and was suppressed. Come, that finished the guinea pigs, thought Alice. Now, wish I got on better. I'd rather finish my tea, said the Hatter, with an anxious look at the queen, who was reading a list of singers. You may go, said the king, and the Hatter hurriedly left the court without even waiting to put his shoes on. And, just take his head off outside. Kill him outside if you can. The queen added to one of the officers, but the Hatter was out of sight before the officer could get to the door. Call the next witness, said the king. The next witness was the Duchess's cook. She carried the pepper box in her hand, and Alice guessed who it was even before she got into the court by the way the people near the door began sneezing all at once. Excuse me, don't be fucking rude, okay? I am nothing like this queen. When have I ever asked for your head? Never. I've asked for head. But never to chop off anybody's head here. Give your evidence, said the king. Shan't, said the cook. The king looked anxiously at the white rabbit, who said in a low voice, Your Majesty must cross-examine this witness. Well, if I must, I must, the king said in a melancholy air. And after folding his arms and frowning at the cook till his eyes were nearly out of sight, he said in a deep voice, What are the tarts made of? Pepper, mostly, said the cook. Treacle, said a sleepy voice behind her. Collar that dormouse. Behead that dormouse, shrieked the queen. Turn that dormouse out of the court, suppress and pinch him off with his whiskers. I was like, damn. All that? For some minutes, the whole court was in confusion, getting the dormouse turned out, and by the time they had settled down again, the cook had disappeared. Never mind, they're tuning that fucking mouse up. They're beating the fucking mouse up. They're beating this mouse up in the middle of court. Oh my god. I can understand. Okay, even more now, I understand why they did not include the mouse. Like, they cannot include this mouse in the Disney version. This mouse is getting abused every single chapter. It doesn't look very good, does it? Never mind, said the king with an air of great relief. Call the next witness. And he added in an undertone to the queen, really, my dear, you must cross-examine the next witness. It makes my forehead ache. Alice watched the White Rabbit as he fumbled over the list, feeling very curious to see what the next witness would be like. For they haven't gotten much evidence yet, she said to herself. Imagine her surprise when the White Rabbit read out, at the top of his shrill little voice, the name, Alice. Chapter 12. Alice's Evidence. Alice keeps getting involved. Became the most important person at work suddenly. Here, cried Alice, quite forgetting, in the flurry of the moment, how large she had grown in the last few minutes, and she jumped up in such a hurry that she tripped over the jury box with the edge of her skirt, upsetting all the jurymen to the heads of the crowd below. And there they lay, sprawling about, reminding her very much of a globe of goldfish she had accidentally upset the week before. Oh, I beg your pardon, she exclaimed in a great tone of dismay, and began picking them up again as quickly as she could, for the accident of the goldfish kept running in her mind, and she had a vague sort of idea that they must be collected at once and put back into the jury box, or they would die. The trial cannot proceed, said the king in a very grave voice, until all the jurymen are back in their proper places. All, he repeated, with great emphasis, looking hard at Alice as he said so. Alice looked at the jury box and saw that in her haste she had put the lizard in head downwards, and the poor little thing was waving its tail about in a melancholy way, being unable to move. She soon got it out again and put it right. Not that it signifies much, she said to herself. I should think it would be quite nice, be quite as much use in this trial one way as the other. This book is like beating my ass. Because like all the language is like ridiculous on purpose, so like I keep correcting it and I'm like, that's actually not what it said. It's like improper English for the sake of the text, and it's like, actually it's not what it said. As soon as the jury had a little recovered from the shock of being upset, their slates and pencils had been found and handed back to them, and they set to work very diligently to write out a history of the accident, all except the lizard, who seemed too much overcome to do anything but sit with its mouth open, gazing up into the roof of the court. What do you know about this business? The king said to Alice. Nothing, said Alice. Nothing whatever? Persisted the king. Nothing whatever, said Alice. That's very important, the king said, turning to the jury. They were just beginning to write this down on their slates when the White Rabbit interrupted. Unimportant, your majesty, means, of course, he said in a very respectful tone, but frowning and making faces at him as he spoke. Unimportant, of course, I meant, the king said hastily, and went on to himself in an undertone. Important, unimportant, unimportant, important, as if he were trying which word sounded best. Hi, Sky, hiya. Some of the jury wrote it down. Important, and some unimportant. Alice could see this, as she was near enough to look over their slates, but it doesn't matter a bit, she thought to herself. I'll probably be live until I'm done reading this book, so I don't know, we're on page like 97. Well, technically we're on page like 179, but like really it's to page 97. Because like the first couple pages are not real. So 97 out of like 105. So we're almost done. 6-7. You're the one that keeps bringing up 6-7. You bring it up all the time. You bring it up every single time. For somebody that doesn't even like 6-7 like that, you bring it up all the time, you know? It's your plague. At this moment, the king, who had been for some time busily writing in his notebook, called out, "Silence," and read out from his book. Rule 42. All persons more than a mile high to leave the court. Everybody looked at Alice. "I'm not a mile high," said Alice. "You are," said the king. "Nearly 2 miles high," added the queen. "Well, I shan't go at any rate," said Alice. "Besides, that's not a regular rule. You invented it just now." "It's the oldest rule in the book," said the king. "My thing is, why does Alice even want to be here? Like, just leave." I understand she finds the court to be interesting, but like, girl, why do you want to be here? They said go, just go. Like, you're really not supposed to be here for real. "Then it ought to be number 1, said Alice. The king turned pale and shut his notebook hastily. "Consider your verdict," he said to the jury in a low, trembling tone. There's more evidence to come yet, please, your majesty," said the White Rabbit, jumping up in a great hurry. "This paper has just been picked up." "What's in it?" said the queen. "I haven't opened it yet," said the White Rabbit, "but it seems to be a letter written by the prisoner to somebody." "It must have been that," said the king, "unless it was written to nobody, which isn't unusual, you know." "Who is it directed to?" said one of the jurymen. "It isn't directed at all," said the White Rabbit. "In fact, there's nothing written on the outside." He unfolded the paper as he spoke and added, "It isn't a letter, after all. It's a set of verses." "Are they in the prisoner's handwriting?" asked another of the jurymen. "No, they're not," said the White Rabbit. "That's the queerest thing about it." The jury all looked puzzled. "He must have imitated somebody else's hand," said the king. The jury all brightened up again. "Please, your majesty," said the knave, "I didn't write it, and they can't prove I did. There's no name signed at the end." "If you didn't sign it," said the king, "that only makes the matter worse. You must have meant some mischief, or else you'd have signed your name like an honest man." "You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't." There was a general clapping of hands at this. It was really the first clever thing the king had said all day. Is it? Is it? Is it? I don't know about that. Is it? "This proves his guilt," said the queen. "It proves nothing of the sort," said Alice. "Why, you don't even know what they're about." "Read them," said the king. The White Rabbit put on his spectacles. "Where shall I begin, please, your majesty?" he asked. "Begin at the beginning," said the king. "Gravely, and go on till you've come to the end, and then stop." These were the verses the White Rabbit read. Oof. I gotta sit up my back. "They told me you had been to her, and mentioned me to him. She gave me good character, but said I could not swim. He sent them word I had not gone. We know it to be true. If she should push the matter on, what would become of you? I gave her 1, they gave him 2, you gave us 3 or more. They all returned from him to you, though they were mine before. If I or she should chance to be involved in this affair, he trusts you to set them free, exactly as we were. My notion was that you had been, before she had this fit, an obstacle that came between him and ourselves and it. Don't let him know she liked them best, for this must ever be a secret kept from all the rest, between yourself and me. That's the most important evidence we've heard yet, said the king, rubbing his hands. So now let the jury, if any one of them can explain it, said Alice. She had grown so large in the last minutes that she wasn't afraid of interrupting him. I'll give him 6 pence. I don't believe there's an atom of meaning in it. She said, I'll put some money on it. I got 6 pence on any of y'all solving that. The jury all wrote down on their slates, she doesn't believe there's an atom of meaning in it. But none of them attempted to explain the paper. If there's no meaning in it, said the king, that saves a world of trouble, you know, as we needn't try to find any. And yet, I don't know, he went on, spreading out the verses on his knee and looking at them with one eye. I seem to see some meaning in them after all. Said I could not swim. You can't swim, can you? He added, turning to the knave. The knave shook his head sadly. Do I look like it? He said, which he certainly did not, being entirely made of cardboard. All right, so far, said the king, and he went on muttering over the verses to himself. We know it to be true. That's the jury, of course. I gave her 1, they gave him 2. Why, that must be what he did with the tarts, you know. But it goes on, they all returned from him to you, said Alice. Why, there they are, said the king triumphantly, pointing to the tarts on the table. Nothing can be clearer than that. Then again, before she had this fit. You've never had fits, my dear, I think, he said to the queen. Never, said the queen furiously, throwing an inkstand at the lizard as she spoke. This unfortunate little Bill had left off writing on his slate with one finger, as he found it made no mark, but now he began hastily using the ink that was trickling down his face as long as it lasted. Then the words don't fit you, said the king, looking around the court with a smile. There was a dead silence. It's a pun, the king added in an angry tone, and everybody laughed. Let the jury consider their verdict, the king said for about the 20th time that day. No, said the queen. Sentence first, verdict after. Oh, stuff and nonsense, said Alice loudly. The idea of having the sentence first. Hold your tongue, said the queen, turning purple. I won't, said Alice. Off with her head, the queen shouted at the top of her voice. Nobody moved. Who cares for you, said Alice. She had grown to her full size by this time. You're nothing but a pack of cards. At this, the whole pack rose up into the air and came flying down upon her. She gave a little scream, half of fright and half of anger, and tried to beat them off, and found herself lying on the bank with her head in the lap of her sister, who was gently brushing away some of the dead leaves that had fluttered down from the trees upon her face. Wake up, Alice, dear, said her sister. Why, what a long sleep you've had. Oh, I've had such a curious dream, said Alice, and she told her sister, as well as she could remember, all these strange adventures of hers you've just been reading about. And when she finished, her sister kissed her head and said, It was a curious dream, dear, certainly. But now, run in to get your tea. It's getting late. So Alice got up and ran off, thinking while she ran, as well as she might, what a wonderful dream it had been. But her sister sat still just as she left her, leaning her head on her hand, watching the setting sun and thinking of little Alice and all her wonderful adventures, till she too began dreaming after a fashion. And this was her dream. First, she dreamed of little Alice herself. Once again, the tiny hands were clasped upon her knee, and her bright, eager eyes were looking up into hers. She could hear the very tones of her voice and see that queer little toss of her head to keep back the wandering hair that would always get into her eyes. And still, as she listened, or seemed to listen, the whole place around her became alive with strange creatures of her little sister's dream. The long grass rustled at her feet as the white rabbit, hurried by the frightened mouse, splashed his way through the neighboring pool. She could hear the rattle of the teacups as the March Hare and his friends shared their never-ending meal, and the shrill voice of the queen ordering off her unfortunate guests to execution. Once more, the pig baby was sneezing on the Duchess's knee, while plates and dishes crashed around it. Once more, the shriek of the griffin and the squeaking of the lizard's slate pencil and the choking of the suppressed guinea pigs filled the air, mixed up with the distant sobs of the miserable mock turtle. So she sat on, with closed eyes, and half believed herself in Wonderland, though she knew she had but to open them again, and all would change to dull reality. The grass would only be rustling in the wind, and the pool rippling to the waving reeds. The rattling teacups would change to tinkling sheep bells, and the queen's shrill cries to the voice of the shepherd boy, and the sneeze of the baby, the shriek of the griffin, and all the other queer noises would change, she knew, to the confused clamor of the busy farmyard, while the lowing of the cattle in the distance would take the place of the mock turtle's heavy sobs. Lastly, she pictured to herself how this same little sister of hers would, in after time, be herself a grown woman, and how she would keep, through all her riper years, the simple and loving heart of her childhood, and how she would gather about her other little children and make their eyes bright and eager with many a strange tale, and perhaps even with a dream of Wonderland long ago, and how she would feel with all their simple sorrows and find a pleasure in all their simple joys, remembering her own child life and the happy summer days. The end. Wow! We did it! And by we, I mean me. We did it. We did it. The version that I read was the replica of the Macmillan edition that was produced in Chicago, like one of the older adaptations. I mean, it's an adaptation from the original story, but it's like as close as you can kind of get to the original book. And I also didn't know, it says here too that like the library in Chicago, the Newberry Library in Chicago, it has one of the first 19 issues of the book. That's really cool. And that's really cool. It makes sense why they would reproduce it. Very cool. I thoroughly am all done. Wow, it feels good. It feels good to finish a book, you know? 2 streams finished that book. Also, what the hell were they talking about earlier when they said just look at the front cover? On the cover of this book is the caterpillar smoking a hookah. I thought we'd return to that, you know. I thought we'd return to that caterpillar smoking hookah. We never did. Unfortunate. I'm actually curious about Through the Looking Glass. After reading that. Because I think I'm probably gonna read Through the Looking Glass next. Because I'm curioso about it. Because I've actually never read, well, I've never read Alice in Wonderland, but I've actually really never read Through the Looking Glass. So I'd be interested in following that up because, like, the whole thing ends with the classic, it was a dream, it was all a dream. But it's like, okay, but then there's a sequel, so... There's a sequel, so what do you mean? What do you mean it was all a dream? You went back for seconds, clearly. Clearly something was happening there. I also think the ending was a little bit anticlimactic compared to the Disney version. I think I actually like the Disney version more when it comes to the ending of the book. I don't think in the totality I like the Disney version more. And I'm talking specifically about the animated version. The live action Alice in Wonderland is so bad. The live action one with Johnny Depp. So awful. Hate that. Hate it real bad. I don't know why they turned Alice in Wonderland into an adventure, and I don't know why Alice is like 20. Like, it's not for me. It's not for me. It's not for me. It's not for me. Personally, I think it's like peak Tim Burton at his worst, personally, and I already don't like Tim Burton because I personally do think that he's like racist based off of things that he's personally said about people. So you know what? I don't really like Tim Burton. But like it's peak Tim Burton doing the most in his movies. But like I'm actually very curious about Through the Looking Glass, so that might actually be the next book that I read on the stream, just for continuity's sake, since I'm so fresh on this one. But I like the ending more. I like the ending more of the movie because it feels more like I would say anticlimactic because of the word I'm looking for. It feels more like panicked. Like everybody's like chasing after Alice, as far as I can remember, because I haven't watched the movie in a very long time. But like everyone's chasing after Alice, like they want to kill her. She's on trial herself, and it just feels more like we're hitting the climax. You know, it never really felt like we hit a climax in the book, which is fine because I mean, it's like a collection of short stories, and I ultimately think this story, I mean, I don't know the history behind Alice in Wonderland, but it feels like to me like it was written to be very whimsical and like disjointed for the sake of disjointedness. So like that doesn't really necessarily bother me because I actually enjoyed reading it despite its disjointed nature, because Alice is just fun as a protagonist, and I think like a lot of the things that happen in the book are just like funny. Like to me this book was like very fun for me to read because like everybody was so mean. Like why is everybody so mean to Alice? I don't remember them being this mean to her. So mean the whole fucking time. Called her stupid throughout the entire fucking book because Alice doesn't know how anything happens. I don't live here. Why are you being so mean to me? I literally don't live here. That's insanity. But yeah, it was a good little read. I think next week, if I end up doing another ASMR stream, I'll probably end up reading Through the Looking Glass. I don't know how long that book is, actually. I should go check how long that book pages, because what if it's like 6 pages? It can't be. Seems fairly long. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's about 12 chapters. Same shit, different day. It's like slightly shorter than the original novel. 12 chapters, so... Oh, and I just thought about it. Tweedledee and Tweedledum aren't in this because they're actually in the second book. Interesting. Cool. I completely forgot about Tweedledee and Tweedledum because I just don't think about them because I actually find them quite annoying. Okay, interesting. So I'm gonna read through the Looking Glass next week if I end up doing an ASMR stream. Because I'm curious about the second book, and I think there's only 2, right? Question mark, question mark. Wow. 4? There are 4 books. What the hell? What the hell? Oh, they're related. Okay, no. There's only 2. On the wiki, I gotta look. Alice in Wonderland. Then Through the Looking Glass. I don't want spoilers. Yeah, it's just the 2, and then it comes with the 2 short stories, which I'm assuming one would be the Jabberwocky, and I don't know what the other one is. That are included in all 4. Alice in Wonderland is a cornerstone in literary nonsense and portal fantasy. It is literary nonsense, but it has just enough of a thorough line and story for it to make sense, if that makes sense. Like, there's just enough here where it's like, oh, you can follow, and it's not too annoying to get through the whole thing. But yes, I am done. I'm just happy we got through it all, and under good time too. Yeah, 2 hours. 2 hours 39 minutes, but 2 hours still. Good time. Didn't want this stream to be 3 hours long. Thank you to everybody that tuned into stream today. I do really appreciate it. I just feel like reading on ASMR streams. When I feel like I don't want to do that anymore, I'll end up doing a more focused stream on like triggers or something, whatever kind of interests me. Right now I feel like book reading, so that's what I'm going to keep doing. I actually was going to read another book after this because I have a psychological thriller that I wanted to read about a girl who got kidnapped as a baby. It's like an older book, but I don't know whether or not it's good, so I'm like, I don't know if we should read it, because like if it's bad, I'm like gonna be upset. A girl who got kidnapped as a baby and then realizes as an adult that her parents kidnapped her, and people say that it's good, but I don't know. I was like, oh, that might be a good one, because we haven't really done like a darker story since Hunger Games. Well, that's not true. The Graveyard Story was kind of dark. Macabre, I would say. Holes was dark, but like dark in a prison industrial complex sort of way, in a systemic sort of way, not in a specifically dark sort of way. So yeah, thank you for the follow, by the way. So yeah, I might end up reading that one if it ends up being a good book, but definitely Through the Looking Glass next, just because we just read Alice in Wonderland, so I'd rather finish that one. So that would be like 2 more streams, because it takes me like 3 hours to get through half the book. It'd be like 2 streams, and then maybe the next stream will be that psychological thriller, and then maybe like a classic story after that. It's kind of how I'm planning it out. But that's if I don't get like tired of doing ASMR and then I don't want to do it anymore for like 3 more months. In any case, thank you so much to everybody that tuned into stream today. I really do appreciate it. I appreciate everybody hanging out with me, doing the thing with me as per usual. I'm not streaming on here until like next week Wednesday, because Wednesday's the day that I do ASMR. So for the rest of the week, I'm going to be over on my main channel. I have the Summer Game Fest that I'm going to do on Friday. And then, so I'll do like an early stream, and then Saturday will be a Just Chatting stream over on main. Yes, if you want more ASMR, you should follow here, because this is the only channel in which I do ASMR. I don't do ASMR over on my main channel anymore. So if you go over there and you ask me for ASMR, I'm going to ban you because I don't do it over there. And I'll be annoyed that you don't like read because it's listed very clearly. But yeah, I do appreciate it. If no one's told you today that you're loved, you're valued, and you are appreciated, you are. You're loved, you're valued, and you are appreciated. I'll probably be back on Wednesday, but I don't know if I'll be in the mood next week to do ASMR, so check the schedule. That will be out next week, Monday or Tuesday, if you're looking for ASMR, or just follow so that you'll be notified the next time I go live. I'm not reading out tonight, so I'm just going. So yeah, if you're wondering who loves you in this lifetime, I do. I love you as much as one stranger can love another stranger, and I hope genuinely in my heart that you are always doing well. I'm gonna go, and as always, until next time, bye, 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 goodbye.